Well, welcome, Hi. Baby Jenna. Jenna Boesenberg-Moffitt to the Change Catalyst podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you guys. It's been a while.
I know. Way to catch up. So we'll introduce, who Jenna, I just call you Jenna B, who that Jenna works. Is. So I've known you since probably you were like 18, 19?
Younger than
20?
that, probably 15.
Probably, yeah.
Go way back.
I know, gosh, I feel so old. And so Jenna, you are a mom, yes. A wife, a female combat veteran,
yes,
PTSD survivor, a substance abuse treatment program director, which is all amazing things.
Come a long way. I've grown up. Just a little
bit. I still haven't. I'm still trying to figure it out. But so tell me a little bit about who you are. Who's Jenna? So before we get into like all the military, all the work, who is Jenna today?
Who am I today? Well, as you said, I think, I am a survivor of PTSD. It's something I struggle with every day, but I also have now used that to help other people. Mm-hmm. I work in the substance use and mental health field. I decided a couple years ago, when I was trying to find out what I'm supposed to do with my life when I got out of the military, right. That's where everything kept leading me back to. So, I'm a mom. I work full time, just trying to help those that, need a listening ear, that need help, because there's such a stigma. I saw it, through my own journey, a lot of my friends that I've lost to PTSD and drug overdose. So I just try to live every day to help where I can.
Yeah. So what does a good day look like for Jenna?
A good day. A good day would be getting up on time, getting out the door on time, and not letting anxiety win. It's very hard, or not letting, thoughts kind of beat me down in my everyday, because it is difficult. Going to work, coming home, and with a smile on my face, and to my kids, and having dinner at the table every day. That's a good day. And a good night's sleep. Those are few and far between.
I mean, just on a regular life, a good night's sleep is tough, much less all the other things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when people hear the word combat veteran, there's a lot, I think, that people assume. And what do you think is something that maybe they usually get wrong?
Well, it depends. I know, me as being a female combat veteran, a lot of people, it catches people off guard. They don't expect that when they look at me for whatever reason.
No, like cute Jenna.
So I think right there, it's very telling. You never know what someone's been through. Yeah. Judging a book by its cover, probably a lot of people wouldn't believe some of the things that I've done, seen, and saw in my time. Yeah. I take a lot of pride in it, but I think the first thing people think is, they're a combat veteran, they've been through something, or they're broken. I think sometimes they automatically try to look and dig deeper. So it's not something I outwardly tell everybody. If it comes up in conversation, it does, but there's a stigma there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when we were younger and I found out that you were going into the Army, I was like, baby, Jenna's going into the Army? So tell me about when you decided to take that route in life, because I don't know if that's where you initially saw your path heading.
I don't think any of you guys.
No.
No. Well, I went to my brother's Marine Corps graduation, and I always say that was something that really inspired me. I saw how proud of himself he was. And we're kind of we used to be very like-minded. And I was like, I want that, I kind of thought about it. He said, you're not joining the Marines. And I was going through a lot. I was in a very difficult relationship at that time, and I really wanted to get away. I knew, everybody that I went to high school with, they stayed here, and I felt like there had to be more out there. I wanted to do something bigger than myself, and find a purpose in life. And so I just left.
He said, I'm signing up.
I signed up. I remember coming home and everyone was like, you're doing what? And got snowed in for a week before I even left for basic training. And then I was off and never looked back.
Where did you do your basic training at?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
In good old Missouri.
Good old Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay. And what was basic like as a female?
So it was difficult. So right around the time I went in 2009, 2010, it was still a time where, females couldn't do combat related jobs. And I wanted to do something. If I was going to go join the Army, if I was going to do this, I wanted to do something that was action packed. I didn't want to sit behind a desk. I wanted to make sure I was doing something.
Yeah, you didn't go to the Army to be a secretary far away.
No. And that was right around the time, deployments were ramping up. So I knew with the MOS that I had picked, and then when I had found out where my duty station was going to be, that I would be deploying probably rather quickly.
Pretty quickly. So once you went through basic, how long was that?
So basic was 8 weeks, and then I went across the street to advanced individual training for another, I could be wrong, 10 weeks, 8 weeks.
Somewhere like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then straight to Fort Leonard when I went. I think I may have come home for leave.
I'm sure at some point. And then how did it feel when you graduated? Did you have that same pride that you saw with your brother?
Oh, yeah. It was the best feeling in the world. I mean, my family was there. My grandmother was able to see me do something. I had a female drill sergeant that I really looked up to. She actually was in the same MOS I was. So I think it was, important for her to see more females going into that MOS, not being afraid to get out there and do that. So I was excited. I had the world at my hand, and I was about to start a new journey. So,
what does MOS mean for us civilians out here?
I have to think about exactly. Hold on. What is
No, you're good.
It's your military. You're gonna have to pause here. Now I'm like, what is it?
No, it's okay. So it's like the path that you're choosing.
Yeah, it's
right?
your job. It's your job.
And what job did you choose?
I was transportation, so convoy security operations. It was the only thing that was going to get me out on the road. So convoy ops is what I did.
To get out and see wherever you were going, not be tied to a base.
Right. Yep. So we pulled convoys. A couple hundred in the 2 years that I did over there.
Oh wow.
We were always on the road. So supporting, transporting. Did security detail for higher ranking officers and stuff like that.
So once you got out of basic, you were stationed in Missouri. And how long until your first deployment? My
first deployment. So about 6 months into, I was at Fort Drum, about 6 months in. The unit that I was a part of had just got back from Iraq. And so we were on it's called Rear D. And a bunch of new soldiers had come in. They were not, since they had just got back from Iraq, they're supposed to have some downtime. But I actually had gotten selected, me and two others had gotten selected for the personal security detail. So we got sent to our brigade to deploy. So about 9 months after I was in the military, I was getting ready to train and be out the door.
And how did that feel?
I was ready to go.
You're like, okay, let's...
I wanted to. That's, it was very exciting, and I felt honored to be picked for that security detail. I was the only female to be picked for that. Awesome. We had a female medic that was, my support battle buddy, but I felt really good. I felt really safe. One of my best friends who was with me from basic training, we got stationed together. He got picked for that detail too. So it just kind of felt meant to be.
That's awesome. So so your first deployment, where was that to?
Afghanistan.
Okay.
And that was 2011 to 2012.
2011 to 2012. So how did those deployments shape you? So when you got there, what did you see and experience, and how is that different from the life you led here in Delaware?
That's a long question. That's a lot.
I know, there's so many things there. First, let's start. When you first got there, tell me what it was like.
It's kind of life shaking, as someone, you're from Delaware too. I'm sure you can relate. Going to a third world country in general can be life shaking. It's just kind of like, whoa. But again, I trusted my team. I loved seeing the culture and just learning about what was going on. We had a job to do. I was nervous. There was multiple, you get put in a hut, and the guys all are staying. So I was by myself, and I was like, what did I do? You kind of had this freak out moment, but it all worked out, just it was day by day.
Were you the only female there in your hut?
That I knew. Yeah, I
Okay.
wasn't. And when I first got there, I was with a bunch of different females from other.
Okay.
So nobody that I, you know what I mean,
Had
knew
any connections with,
from my
yeah.
group, right? But eventually they made some changes and everything adjusted. First deployment was different. You know, the first time we went out that gate, seeing the way that those people live and realizing this is real life. You know, at any second we get with RMOS IEDs were our biggest threat.
Right.
So I think that was not difficult for me, but when you're 22 years old and you're like,
Yeah,
and I didn't
real
have all
life
these,
danger.
I
Yeah.
didn't have all these epiphanies till later to look back and realize, well, that's not, normal stuff that 22-year-olds are doing. I'm over here, making every time we would go out, like, I'm all right, knowing that I might not make it back. I was all in my first deployment. And we unfortunately lost two of my very best friends. And so first deployment was really, really difficult.
Yeah.
But that's also when I re-enlisted, so.
You decided I'm coming back to keep serving.
Yeah.
What motivated you to re-enlist?
Losing my friends and knowing that there was the way that they passed away and just the mission needed to go on, and it wasn't over yet over there. So and I loved what I did. I truly did.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was more to be done.
What are some of the things that you experienced during that first deployment?
As far as, I did get, I got poisoned, which was interesting. So there was always a threat, right, on base and off base. One day I just all of a sudden was sitting out back and got physical. I knew that something was wrong. And I was like, this doesn't seem right, and got carried. A bunch of my battle buddies had to carry me to the medic station. And we had found out, there had been a poison of Comet in our food.
They put Comet, like the cleaning?
Yes. So we had the local nationals. They worked at several of the DFACs on base over there, and they had they prepared our food. So sometimes that wasn't the first time it happened. It just happened to be one of those individuals.
Oh, wow.
There was, I don't know if you guys remember when the Quran burning happened. That was shortly, we weren't there very long. And I remember we were at a Connex, and I think that was the first time I realized I'm in a war zone. And
you're like, oh, man.
We were right by the gate, and we were on top of a Connex, and we just looked over, and we saw hundreds of people trying to storm the gate and air support, and we had no clue what was going on. You guys may have known before we even knew over there. And they shut down base for about 7 days. We didn't have water. We didn't have food. It was rough. It was a very scary time. They were talking about overrunning the gates and everything like that. So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
There was that, and then again, like I said, losing my friends was probably the hardest part of that entire deployment.
Sure.
Having to go through something like that.
Yeah. And I think, the only experience obviously I have with any type of like combat stuff is looking at it through movies. So what do you think they get wrong?
I think that there's obviously dramatics that are, or effects, it's actually very somber. And I think the visual effects, I don't even know how to explain it to a movie when you've been to a ramp ceremony in real life. Having to try to hold your military bearing in a formation when that you're watching your friends, pieces of their body get put into a casket and put on a plane. But you have to stay, you have to hold your bearings, and you can't cry, and you have to be strong, and you have to get through it. And that's an experience you can't really explain to anybody.
Yeah.
Knowing, I knew they were getting flown back to Dover Air Force Base, and that was, hard for me.
Yeah, they're coming to your home.
They're coming to where I was. But again, the years gone by, I've gotten a lot of peace from it, from all of that. So
when you were in the Army, how did you view mental health then?
Oh, you couldn't. There was no mental health.
No.
You had to be strong. And again, I grew up in a family where it was be tough, drive on. We don't talk about feelings. You're strong. So then going into the military, that kind of carried
just
over.
like solidified that even further, right?
We just shove everything down. We suck it up and we keep moving, and that's not how life works.
No. And do you feel like as a female you were held to even higher standards, like
Absolutely,
because you didn't want to be considered like a hysterical female?
Absolutely.
Right?
And I have a lot of respect from the guys that I served with, because they knew I did my part. I was picking up the same weapons that they were, and walking and running and doing physically every standard that they were doing. But there's absolutely, a stigma that, and that's just something I carried in me every day. You have to be strong. You can't be weak. But going through something like that is an everybody trauma. It was not, I'm not just broken inside because I'm a female. Like, these are.
No, it's a universal
experience,
right?
It's a universal experience, right? And again, growing up, having there been time and talking to a lot of my battle buddies now, because we're all still so close, it makes me feel better now because they're more open about that and they realize that.
Yeah. And so was there a moment during your service when you realized like it was changing you at any point?
Changing me in what regard, I guess?
Like, you're not the same Jenna that showed up green.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of that, I would come home. I mean, I didn't feel like I could relate. I still struggle with that. I think when you grow up in a small knit, community like I did, and with a small group of friends and family and stuff, and then you go away and you do something like that, it can leave you with not feeling like you relate, or you don't fit in, because nobody can, not that they need to understand everything that you went through, but I don't know how to put it into words. It can make you feel like you don't belong. And so usually the only people that get it or get what you went through are the people you served with.
Yeah.
So I found that really hard coming back here when I would visit, or, when I moved back here. I'm like, why don't I feel like I fit in anymore? But I went through a whole different life.
Yeah, you've experienced so much more.
Right. That not everybody was a part of, and that's not their fault or anything. It was just I went through different things.
Yeah. And so you did another tour after the 2011 to 2012, and then you came back, re-enlisted, and then when did you go back?
Not even a year later. We had orders to go back out the door again. I was actually supposed to PCS. I was to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where my husband was, but they needed me to deploy, so they stopped my orders. So he was there. Wow. I was in Fort Drum. He had orders to deploy, and so did I, conveniently. So we spent the first year and a half of our marriage separated, but we were both deployed.
Where was he deployed to, and where were you deployed to?
He was in Afghanistan in another base. Another base. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
did you guys ever get to see each other while you were in Afghanistan?
We did. Luckily, I had a great commander who served with both of us, and when we weren't on the road, he would do what he could to try to get us to see each other and everything like that. So it was helpful, but very difficult.
Were you married your first deployment?
We were not.
No.
We were just leaving.
How do you feel like that changed for your second deployment? Like, how do you feel like it was different your second deployment?
I was with a different unit, so I was on a smaller team. That security detail my first deployment. With my second deployment, not only was I a different rank, I was a higher rank. So instead of sitting in the driver's seat, I was in the passenger seat. I was in charge of my truck this time, making calls, leading soldiers. And I was in a bigger transportation unit where honestly and our mission was different. Mm-hmm. We were more rapidly out the gate than my first deployment. So it came with its own set of difficulties. We were closing down RC East. We were one of the last ISAF transportation units to go and close down a lot of these FOBs over there, and basically at the end. Yeah. So there was definitely a lot of threat level and a lot of high intensity moments over there. But all in all, I mean, it was different. It was a completely different experience. A lot of different traumas, different issues. The second deployment.
Yeah. And so you separated from the military in 2015, right? So when did you end your second deployment?
2014.
2014.
Yep, and got pregnant with my daughter quickly after getting back, and that's when I had made the decision. I knew then, just with being dual military marriage, and having my daughter, I was like, and I couldn't leave her. I was like, I'm going to get sent right back out the door, and continue to deploy. So I had to make the decision for my marriage at the time and my daughter to get out. Even though I didn't want to.
And so going from an active duty military to a military spouse, how was that transition for you?
Very difficult. And that's kind of when I started struggling with my own. I didn't have time to even think about what was going on. I mean, I had gotten back from my second very action-packed, heavy deployment. I was pregnant. I was getting out. I had moved. There was no time for me.
Bam, bam,
it was
bam,
bam, bam, bam, and never really had time to stop and think about what that was going to be like and the effect that was going to have on me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like running a marathon to a full stop.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then everything just whoosh.
Yep.
Wow. And so what do you think was harder, leaving the structure of the military or facing that like internal struggle?
Both. I think it goes together. I think for someone, going back to the reasons why I joined and then, having that abruptly, taken away was left a hole inside of me that I, still struggle with, just trying to find it. Once you do something like that, it's very hard to find something else to make you feel like that.
Like that purpose again.
Right. And it's something that I think a lot of veterans search for. Mm-hmm. You want to find a purpose. You want that structure. You don't realize until you get into the civilian workforce kind of how hard that is. And it is a struggle from leadership skills. I apologize. From trying to fine tune your own leadership skills and adapt into society and see where that fits. Trying to then navigate and not have that military mindset with everything. It's a work in progress. It's very hard.
I know. And I know TJ has talked a lot about like the transition from law enforcement to like a civilian type position is like, you go from this incredibly purposeful job, right? Where you're, and same with military, right? You're out there saving lives. You're doing very important action-packed thrilling, high intensity work to, I'm going to go sit at a desk and answer some emails now.
Right.
It's a big shift and it's really hard.
It's really hard. It can bring up a lot of emotions, anger, anxiety. It can make you, it's just identity. I think that's the biggest thing in the veteran language and the, police, it's your identity.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really matter, if you're in for 6 years, this is, and I've learned doing my work, like helping veterans and now helping my husband in his journey since he's gotten out. It doesn't matter if you've served 6 years or 15 or 20. There's something about serving and living that life that just changes you forever. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to deal with that.
Right, and figuring out who you are without the uniform now. Like, who's Jenna going to be now?
And that's why I love helping the military because, I look at it as that's how I've continued to serve, is just being able to help veterans even, while I'm not in uniform anymore.
Yeah. And so what is something maybe, like, you wish you had been told before transitioning out?
I wish I would have been told more about mental health and how it's going to affect and the identity issues and kind of what to expect and been given resources. If I'm being honest, there's a lot of things that can be probably fixed in the end, when soldiers are getting out.
Sure.
I was given, with the ratings and you go through the ratings and everything like that.
Ratings, like your disability rating?
Right. Your, PTSD and everything like that. I think if we could fix something then, but while they're transitioning out and brief them and just be real about what to expect, it would be helpful. I think a lot of the battle buddies that I've lost would say the same thing, instead of just being put out. I hate to say just put out because they do make you go to several classes, but I think the most important that's not touched on is the mental health side and how to deal, get into support groups or the feelings you're going to feel. And that's not touched on at all. If you get out with a PTSD rating, why are you not automatically set up with help and appointments and stuff? I wasn't talked to for 5 years from the military after I got out. If it wasn't, I had to make the own decision myself to get help.
It had to be something you led, not something that was led by the military. Right. And I think that's so important, like not seeing it as like, I don't even know the best way to phrase it, but like it's an occupational hazard. You know what I mean? Like you're not getting out of there without it.
Right.
Like let's just put it out there. Like if you've been in combat, you've seen some terrible things, you've been through some terrible things likely. You've seen things that the human eye is not meant to see.
Right.
Or make decisions that the human person shouldn't have to ever make, right? So why are we not just considering it an occupational hazard? Like, you know, if you're forcing people to get vaccines for diseases that they're going to come across, why are we not asking people to get treatment for things that they're having to endure, right? Like it just needs to be a mandatory thing.
Right.
Everybody just has to go through it.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
Give me 12 sessions. That's all I want.
12, yeah. All of my self-help was due to my own, and I'm grateful that I did because it, could have gone other ways when I was in dark places. But, there's a lot of resources, Reboot, and I had luckily I was in a military town in Fort Campbell. My husband's friends they had military spouses, and there was still that veterans community that kind of was there to raise me up. But it's definitely work every day.
Yeah. And so you've been, really open about living and treatment with your PTSD. So when did you first realize like something wasn't right? Like maybe I'm not doing so great.
So after I had my daughter, she was little. Like I said, I was in Fort Campbell, trying to work, go to school, raise a newborn, and deal with transitioning out all at the same time.
So many things.
And I just started, there's postpartum depression, that's one thing, but then I just started, the thought process kind of started racing in my head. And I had kind of hit a depression I had never seen before. And I missed the military. It's like, I missed my friends. I had a yearning for my old life, even though I didn't know what that was like. And so that's when I found Reboot Recovery in Fort Campbell, and it was brought to me like, just give it a try. It was faith-based, which at that point I had I had lost my faith just with stuff I had gone through in the military. So that turned me off to it, but I listened to my gut instinct. I knew I had a little daughter to live for. So that's kind of when I was like, what do I got to do? I'll go see what it's about. And that's kind of how my journey started. Was just because I knew I had a little girl that I had to take care of. So I
she motivated you to figure it out. And what is Reboot? For those of us that don't know.
So Reboot Recovery, they are a nonprofit faith-based organization. They used to be Reboot Combat Recovery. They just had it was a curriculum for veterans that, it started off in a church in Fort Campbell. And now they have curriculums for first responders and family members that deal with trauma, but it's a trauma-focused course. And it was a safe place for me because it was just veterans. It's led by veterans. Veterans were in there, and it was a place for you to be able to feel that community again. And it definitely changed my life. I always say it saved my life. After going through the class not once, then I went through it again. Because every time you go through it, you learn more and more.
Sure.
And got really connected, met a lot of great people, and I felt supported. I didn't feel shamed for the feelings that I had any longer. Like we had talked about before, just that it was finally okay to say I'm not okay in a group full of, other veterans. And that was important.
Yeah. Validation. And so what did PTSD look like for you personally? I know you're a mental health professional. I know what the textbook definition is, but what does it look like for you? Because it is different for everybody.
It is. I definitely have a hard time even still driving. That's hypervigilance is really big.
Sure.
I have a lot of social anxiety. Being in public places, loud sounds. It depends. Sometimes I don't even realize that something's going to bother me, or I'll think I'm fine, and it'll be a trigger, right? Triggers can come, and it's now I've learned, okay, that's PTSD, you're okay, but it can be debilitating. To the point where you just stay inside. You don't want to go anywhere. It really depends. It can be panic attacks. It can be, stuff, the news, anything like that. I have a hard time with planes in the sky. I have a lot of,
oh my gosh, yeah.
It just, it really depends.
Yeah. And so where was the turning point for you where you started feeling like, I don't want to say the word manageable, but where you feel like now you can survive with it?
I went through a lot of therapy. We can talk about that. And I think the biggest thing is just being able to talk about it. And that's how I have a handle on it, by being vocal about it, by relating to people. There's certain days where it can totally take over. But I could sit inside, it depends, but I have to fight it every day.
Right.
And not let it rule my life, because if it did, I, wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't be functionable. So I've just learned to deal with it in a way that is beneficial to me. If something's going to stress me out more, if a public, setting makes me uncomfortable, that's okay. And I've realized that that's okay. I don't have to. From the outside looking in, I think sometimes it can be, I'm not, flaky or backing out, but it's just I do what I have to do, and I'm okay with that. Taking ownership, then that's what I have to do for myself, and I don't have to explain that to everybody.
Right. Like you don't owe it to anybody but yourself.
Right.
Get that. And then I know one of you and I were talking earlier, and something I find really interesting, and I definitely don't know enough about it. One of the treatments that you went through for PTSD is and I'm going to say it wrong, and it already went out of my head.
Ketamine.
S-ketamine therapy. So tell me, what is that?
So I did EMDR first. So that was you're probably familiar with EMDR, so the ketamine therapy. So I did. I looked into that a couple years ago. It was actually brought to me because I had worked at a healthcare facility, and they had come in and done a presentation, and I found it fascinating. You're talking to someone who, when I was in the military, was put on every different antidepressant, anxiety medication, same thing getting out. I had gotten tired of that. And so when I went on this journey where I was like, I got to help myself, and I want to try different routes, because that's not working. I don't want to just be on a medication. I had looked into the ketamine therapy and saw that it had great results. It was a way to get off medications and and I knew I had gone through EMDR, which was intense, and, they had prepared me for that it was going to be difficult. It's like going through a picture book in your head. And, I went through it by myself, to be honest. Their support system wasn't there, but again, it was that situation where it's like, I need to try one more thing. Yeah. And it was one of the best therapies I've ever gone through. I did 20 sessions.
Oh, wow. So what does that look? So do you have to do EMDR before ketamine?
You do not.
No. Okay.
Going into, I would say, ketamine therapy, like I try to do the steps, right? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend someone who's never tried anything other therapy to just go straight into ketamine therapy.
Maybe try talk therapy first. See where that goes.
Would say go through, the therapeutic thing. And I knew just working in mental health and having a good pulse on me, and that I was ready to try something new. I felt very comfortable with the guy who was, the facility I was going to. I educated. I studied it for almost a year before I committed to doing it. And I gave it my best shot, and it was great.
And so what does that look like for someone? Like I said, I don't know much about it.
So, just a general session or what that, you go in and you do your scores and your assessments, and that's kind of how you get your regimen. Then you go in and they give you half of a dose just to see how you do. It's very therapeutic. You're in a room. It's essential oils, and it's very calm.
Calm and relaxing.
Right, but it's a self journey. You can have someone come in, but they recommend you go through it kind of by yourself. And you're in a room, and they administer it, and you kind of just go into a tranquil state. You're awake, but you're not. It's
like they call it. What is that?
It's like the in-between.
Yeah, I'm like, sorry, I'm losing words today.
Right. And at first I was like, this is a lot, but the more you go, the more you know how to control that, and the more therapeutic it gets. And it was hard because after a session, it will completely wipe you out. And
Yeah, it's
you
exhausting.
have, right, it's very exhausting. Journaling is same thing that I did in EMDR to journal. And also having therapy to go along with it, right? Because you're going to be remembering and working through stuff, and you have to be able to talk about those things and why.
So you would go do your session.
About
And
2
how
hours.
it's like 2
It's
hours.
2 hour session every single time. You have to, someone drive. You have to have transportation.
Sure.
And so it's a whole day. It was really a commitment, but it was something that I knew because once if I'm doing this, I'm doing
You're in
it.
it,
And
yeah.
so I was starting off going 3 times a week,
Wow.
and then I went down to 2 times a week, 1 time a week, and then 1 time a month if maintenance if needed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
With progression, But it was fascinating to me. It was unlike anything I had ever gone through. My scores were drastically different at the end of my treatment, and just being able to, have a hold on it. I didn't feel, the suicidal ideation, the mass panic, all of that was gone. And that's what I was looking for.
Right.
And going through that.
And so is that something that was covered through the VA or your insurance?
My insurance.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful. And was it like guided? Was someone there with you? Like, because I know like we've spoken to someone that did the Ibogaine, and like he said he heard like a voice that said, think about your the 3 hardest things in your life. Or I'm probably not phrasing that right, but like, was it guided at all?
So where I went, like I said, they a lot of self journey, but just I was educated on it. They come in and they talk to you, but it's really what you want to think about or talk about. I would go into it sometimes thinking about something in hopes that that's what
Where
that
your
session
mind would lead you.
right?
Yeah.
But something else completely different would come out of it. So it was very interesting. I wanted to do like a deeper dive and explain to people more about it after I had completed it. But I think it's also one of those things that it's difficult unless you have someone who's willing to like learn about it to really understand.
Is there anything that surprised you about it?
I think how vivid the visuals are that you get.
How real it feels.
It was crazy the things that you can see, and you don't like. Oh, that's why that bothered me. Although I'm talking all the way back to like childhood stuff would come up in there, and it's kind of helps you realize where maybe certain feelings or things started, and just help bridge the gap for me.
Yeah. And so you would do your Ibogaine, sorry, you would do your ketamine, and then you would go and like, would you have like regular therapy sessions kind of in between to help process all of those things?
And just myself and my journal. Like I said, it's important for anyone that wants to do that to have a good support system, that understands, because it will wipe you out when you come home, or you might be in your feelings for a couple days because you remembered some things. And but again, it's life-changing for me. It really was.
And so you had mentioned, some of that. Do you feel like some of that helped kind of gain clarity on where you wanted your life to go, or your purpose finally?
I think it helped me get the skills to be stronger, to put up boundaries, to really identify, maybe why certain things that do maybe trigger certain things in me, to take control of that and work on myself, to fix those, to be able to say no, to be confident in myself. And that's really, I think, the broken part that the PTSD and just everything that I had gone through in the last 10 years, took from me was my confidence.
Right. Yeah.
My confidence, because it makes you question everything.
Right. You're like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Is this because of this? Sure. I totally get that.
Not trust yourself, that's what it will do.
And have you, I know that, not to bring up all the really sad things, but like, I know you've lost a lot of friends over the last couple years, last 10 years, if not, has there been anybody in your life now that you've been like, this is what's really helped me? And have you ever recommended the ketamine therapy to any of your friends?
I have. A lot of them have reached out just because I am very open. As you said, on social media, it's one thing I'm not shameful about, because I was taught in Reboot, being transparent can save someone's life.
Yeah.
And sometimes all it takes is seeing something and feeling like you can relate to someone.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of people reach out and ask about it. Everyone has a lot of us struggle with the same thing, but I always say it's worth a shot. Look into it. Also, always recommend EMDR or try to see what they've done up to that point, because it's not going to be, you don't want to just, I've been in that feeling where it's desperate. You just want it to be fixed. So I always try to tell people, it worked for me, but what works for me may not work for you, but it's worth a shot to see.
Yeah. And so when did you realize, like, I want to help others walk this road too?
Reboot. After I had done my first class in Reboot and realized how many other veterans were feeling the same way and struggling, and that's when I decided to become a course leader. And then it just kind of went from there. I started doing that, and then when I moved back to Delaware, got into the mental health field. Had a lot of things happen in my life, lost a lot more friends even since moving back. So it was more trauma and more of a reason for me to feel like, okay, I belong here and I need to help people. I've lost a lot of battle buddies that I've unfortunately been trying to help. I was in the process. I was that last person they talked to, trying to get them into rehab, trying to get them into help, and it was too late. So I've had to learn that's not all on me. It's another feeling that really sucks.
Yeah.
But that's what keeps me going, and yeah, for them. It's for them.
And then how does your own recovery, like, influence the way you view your service now and you view your past deployments and all the things you went through?
I'm very proud, but I think that's what, like, I'm proud, and I realize it's okay, that it's completely normal for, it's not an excuse for maybe some of the not bad decisions, but, decisions I made before I had gotten help, that it's everyone, we're gonna have to redo this question.
No, you're fine. I think it's important to understand there's an and, right? It doesn't always have to be a but. I'm proud, but I'm proud and it was hard. I'm proud and I've learned, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. I'm proud, and it was hard, and I went through things that I know your average 22-year-old, no, not every 22-year-old's calling for air support in a third world country. And so I think being able to you went through some crap.
Yeah, some hard stuff.
And you went through some crap that and that's okay. But you did some badass shit. Can I say that on you?
Yeah, you can totally say that.
And I feel like searching for that validation is gone. I can look back on that now and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool that I did that. And now, and I survived some hard stuff, and now I'm not perfect, but it made me who I am today.
Yeah. I think you're rocking it.
Do my best.
And so you got home, mom, now you have 2 beautiful babies, not babies anymore, but kids. And then you went back to school to get your training in mental health. So you earned your MBA. And you transitioned into mental health substance use disorder. I know we've touched on why that path, obviously, right? But how does your lived experience that you've been through, how does that help you now professionally in the world that you're in?
Well, I struggled with alcohol. It was a coping mechanism for me. And in the military, that's just a way that we all connect.
Oh, yeah. Everyone go gets a beer after work.
Never really looked at it as a problem until I was struggling. It's something I have to, catch myself in and everything like that. But just being able to use those lived experiences to help people. It helps me have an empathy and an eye. I think the stigma out there with mental health and especially substance use is very, very wrong and very misconstrued. Most of the time people with substance use disorders, it's due to an underlying trauma.
Sure.
It helps me be more compassionate because I think someone said to me once, how can you be in an industry when you yourself have those, or struggle with mental health and substance use. And, to me, I'm like, you don't get it. Those are the best people in the industry because that's how you can relate to people. It's helped me, being a veteran. A lot of veterans struggle and there's a lot of shame in getting help when you have mental health and substance use issues. Or any first responders, we find that to be a trend because there's a shame in that. And so I think when I can help a veteran just by saying, hey, I'm a veteran too, and I've been there, that's what it's all about for me.
Well, I think it also gives them hope, right? Like she's been here and
she's been there, she's been through this, and wow, that can be me too.
Yeah, and she's surviving.
Right.
I think that gives people hope, which is, when you're in that space,
it can feel very hopeless. And so I think that's what I try to do. I'm not perfect. I am very transparent with anyone that I try to give encouragement to, and that's the best thing that I can do.
And where do you see some of those biggest gaps in care right now for veterans, first responders, trauma survivors?
Well, I know that a lot of veterans are nervous to go straight to the VA. I myself have been there. Just, kind of going back to what we had said, I didn't hear from them for 5 years with a diagnosis like I had. It was concerning to me, but also when you go and get help per se for PTSD, sometimes it can be looked at as treatment, and your disability rating can be affected by that because it's looked at as you're fixing the problem.
Right, you're getting better, so you're...
And so it can be a deterrent for veterans to go straight to the VA, which is also another reason why I enjoy my job, because sometimes I can help break that barrier and lead them to the VA, maybe be their first comfort spot where they don't feel shame and get them to where they need to be so then they can go and, not have to have anxiety about their benefits being touched or anything like that, because a lot more veterans would, I think, be prone to get help if they didn't feel like there was a consequence, essentially. I hate to say it like that, but that's just kind of the reality.
Well, no, I mean, it is a reality, especially when, you're struggling. And so financially, you're dependent upon those benefits. And if someone says, hey, if you get better, we're going to take these benefits away, that's a huge deterrent.
Right. And that's what I was told when I went through EMDR therapy. But to have to be put in that position, it was hard enough to have to make the decision to go get help. But then I had a lovely doctor. She was great. And she was like, I just want you to know that going through with this, could be looked at as progression, and you could be up for your benefits to be taken. And I'm like, so that was a really terrible place. Luckily I had a husband and I had, support, and I'm like, okay, my life is worth it to me. I need to get help. Yeah. But it didn't sit right with me, and I've been trying to take action and kind of fight against that.
I was going to say, I think that's a great place to start lobbyists.
I've been trying. I've done some work with that. I've reached out to some senators, and I've made some calls in multiple states I've been in. It's a bigger, issue, and it's really just something that needs to be changed, but not a lot of people are aware of it.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's really just the language that needs to be.
Well, so when TJ was going through his medical retirement, we learned that there was almost a consequence for you're only allowed to earn so much, right? And then if you then earn over that, then the state's going to take back your retirement that you earned, which I think is just terrible. And that's a terrible way to look at a veteran's, to honor their service. Mm-hmm. They have a condition that was caused by their service, and when they choose to get better, you're then going to take away.
Because it's treated as a physical wound and not a soul wound that it is. And it's unfortunate. I think a lot of, I know friends that I have would have gone to get help, but they were in such a bad place, and they needed,
they financially needed the money because they couldn't work. Sure.
Right. And it can put you in a place where you don't want to get help. So
you should never have to make that choice.
You should never have to make that choice.
I mean, let's stop putting patches on everything about, 22 soldiers die a day. Let's actually do some work and not, if that to me seems like an easy fix.
Yep. Yeah, that's what.
Probably easier. I'm probably making it much easier in my head than it really is. But
no, I've been trying to fight that since I think I went in 2017. I mean, I've written the White House, I've written senators, I've met with, multiple people about it. I hope that it can get changed one day. But like I said, for right now, what I can do in the in-between is try to educate and be there, and use my work to identify those veterans and help get them there. Successfully was able to do that with a homeless veteran at my last place of work, and it was a great feeling because he ended up getting his benefits back, got back into the VA, did trauma reboot, and if I can just help one person, that's all that really matters to me.
Yeah. And I bet that's going a long way towards your own healing.
It does. That's I think anyone that knows me, I help myself by helping others. I've always said that my whole life. I'm here to help other people, and that is what helps me. That's what helps my recovery. That's what helps keep me going, is knowing I'm helping other people.
That's huge. And so that's really, I know I had asked you to send some information ahead of time, and you really talked a lot about meeting people where they are. And I think that's how you put it into practice, right?
Absolutely. You got to meet people where they're at, and not go in with judgment, and maybe just take 1 second to think. Nobody wanted to be that way. I look at, a lot of any of the clients or anything that I've dealt with on a daily basis, and no one asked to be an addict. No one asked to struggle with things. And so it's
nobody said they want to be a heroin addict when they grow up.
And that's always my biggest thing is, there's people are very quick to look at people from the outside looking in. And sometimes all you need to just sit down and take time to meet someone where they're at, have a conversation. And people can tell. You can tell people's energy when you talk to them of, who's going to be accepting of this and who isn't. So I think, I don't say many things about myself that but I can say that's a strength that I have and that I enjoy, is being able to be that to people.
And so, just in the bigger picture of recovery, like, why is access to care such a critical issue right now in recovery?
Access to care, it is changing, especially in the substance use world. Delaware itself, we rank number 2. The drugs that we have in Delaware are very, very, they don't find them anywhere else really, except for Philly.
Well, we're so special.
And we are dealing with some really heavy stuff, and to the point where we can't even keep up with care because the drugs that it's called drug poison, that are, is in these things is, we can't even treat them. We're not even medically, they're going to the hospital, they're going to the ICU. Yeah. They're not even going into detox. It's a very fine line between where we're at nationally and where we're at, in Delaware, and the help is just not there. The resources are not there. We need more detoxes. We need more levels of care. You can't take someone from a detox with the drugs that are out there now, and then throw them in an outpatient setting and expect that they're going to thrive. There has to be a full continuum of care. A full continuum of care looks like about 1.5 years from start to finish. We don't have that. It's very broken. We're not helping the person. We're putting a Band-Aid over it. These people need life skills and case management stuff, and it's just there's a very big gap in the state, considering the severe problems that we have.
And you think do you feel like the drugs are just evolving faster than the knowledge that we have for treatment?
I think so. I think we weren't expecting any of that to happen, to come in the way that it did. Again, it's called drug poison. A lot of people don't even know what they think, that they're just smoking weed, and they are ending up in critical care because it's laced with all kinds of things. Education, we try to put education out there.
Yeah.
But if you're in it and you're not really getting help for the core problem of what brought you that way,
what's driving the behavior,
right, that needs to be changed, not just, putting a Band-Aid on it, unfortunately.
And do you feel like, I guess because I work for an insurance company, so that's the tough part, right? Like, I feel like sometimes
insurances are not, can I say that? They're not in law. It's not, they're not getting approved for the care that they need. And it's just because it's called the ASAM levels of care, they've got to get caught up to the insurance companies. I think they definitely want to, and but it takes a lot of voices. It takes a lot of people being vocal.
Right.
it's very sad.
And I wonder how long ago it's been since those ASAM definitions have been updated to reflect the current culture,
right.
like climate.
So they just they did just update them. I know that within this last year, but that's going to change a lot of levels of care. So you think about all the people that didn't, get the
meet
proper,
for that level.
Right.
Do you think it'll make access a little, I don't want to say easier, but
well, I hope so. I know.
Open it up a little more.
There's so many pieces. I think a lot of the mental health and substance use workers are really getting, burnt out. It's not an easy industry to work in.
No.
And so there's a lot of pieces in there, right? I wish I had an answer, or if I could say one thing was going to help, but I think it's going to be a long process.
Right.
We have a lot, with everything that's going on and everything that was allowed in, it's going to take a very long time to get that out.
Okay. So, talking about, life after service, really talking about how life is now. So how would you say your definition of strength maybe has changed since the Jenna that first got into the Army, the Jenna that got out, and the Jenna now?
I think strength is different because to me, I think strength is standing up and being able to say what's wrong. I look at it now as my strength is being able to be vulnerable and to talk about things. I thought, was I strong then? Sure, but I'm strong in a different way, where I now, can stand up to my mental health, or I can stand up to the things that bother me, have those boundaries. Strength looks very different to me, but in a healthier way. Because I think before I thought strength was just keeping it all in,
like
and
head
doing
down,
it, and
getting through it,
and being, not disappointing anyone, or not, it'd be weak to say this, but now I'm like, that's not strength. That wasn't strength. This is strength.
And to think about it, like you're in many aspects the only female in a very male-dominated life, right? You're the only sister to two very strong brothers.
Yes.
Only female in a very male-dominated military path. And then, now I would say being a female leader in a male-dominated leader position, right?
It's not easy.
No,
but yeah, it's definitely not. But again, I just I always say, like, people that know me, let my actions define and show who I am. I think there will always be a stigma and all of that. Being, like you said, a female leader and working in this industry, sometimes you get looked at as maybe what you're saying isn't right. You say something and it can be, then it gets second guessed. But if a male says it, then it's good. But I just keep being myself, and I lean into that. I'm very confident in everything I've done, all the hard work that I've put in to get where I'm at today. And I think I'm pretty proud of myself for 36 years old, almost 37, regardless of all the things.
Yeah. And what are some things that you do to just kind of maintain and stay grounded, when things when you do have heavy days?
I lean into my kids. I talk to my military support people, people that I can identify with and that understand me, which that's not, a hit on anybody. If that's, it may not be my family, it may not be people that I've known my whole life, but if that's what helps me in that moment is, if I feel comfortable reaching out to my battle buddies, hey, I'm having a bad day, I know that they get it, and they can reel me back in. And my spouse, he's, like I said, he's been out for a couple years now, but I can see in him going, the same
transition.
Right. And I think that's one thing, because our marriage has had its ups and downs as well. But the one thing that keeps us, we're veterans, and we've been deployed together. There's really, it doesn't get any deeper than that. And so we have an understanding of each other that I think not a lot of people do. And that's a understanding that as a veteran, you want people to know that side of you and to understand. So when you feel like nobody else does, at least, we have each other. So it's helped in that regard.
Yeah. And so I think you kind of touched on this, but like your role of community, like how does community, and for you, that might be your military community, it might be your mental health community. What does that play in your life today? Like it helps you kind of just check in and stay balanced.
It helps me stay balanced. It helps me keep myself accountable. It helps me remember, as they tell you in Reboot Your Toolkit, it gives me, that's my purpose. I mean, knowing that, okay, there's someone else out there. When I can identify in someone something I saw in myself 2-3 years ago, it just brings me so much joy to be able to try to help them.
Yeah. So for veterans that are silently struggling, because I think, like we said, there's many of them, what would you like them to hear and to know?
That you're not alone. And I think most veterans have probably lost someone. I've lost more people to veteran suicide and overdose than I did when, from roadside bombs in combat, which is very, I think it's gut-wrenching to hear out loud. And so there is hope. You're not alone, and definitely get involved with any, Reboot's a great community, but even if it's not Reboot, get involved with a veteran organization, a veteran group, because that, I think, was, if I look back, was the very first thing that made it kind of grabbed me up from a bad place was that community again, being around like-minded individuals. But definitely if you're, go to the VA, if you're not comfortable there, find a nonprofit and start there.
Right. And so, I mean, just for me to hear you say that you've lost more battle buddies to suicide and overdose than in combat, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. How is that with all this was a question I meant to ask earlier, and now it's just coming back to my head. But with all those losses that you've experienced, how has that shaped you today?
That's another reason why I'm in this field. I think, in all transparency, why I'm still here, because even as hard as some of those moments were and some of those losses were, I know that they wouldn't want me to give up. And it just, to me, shows there's a bigger issue that needs to be addressed. And that's what I'm going to fight for until hopefully something happens out there.
What helped you the most that you kind of were surprised by, that you didn't expect would help the most?
With dealing with the PTSD and just all of it.
All the many traumas.
Helped me the most.
That was a bit of a surprise.
I don't know. Let me think about that one. That helped me the most. I think sharing my story with people that I was most nervous to, family members, people that I found, the people that I thought I had to be the strongest or that looked, I think just having to sit down and be able to say, hey, you may not want to hear it all. That was big for me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is why it took a lot of strength for me to tell you bits and pieces of it, whether you understand or not. Take it for what it is. That's never something I would have done before. So I think was a strength, to be able to talk about those things.
Allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Right.
Maybe the people that
the Jenna cannot be vulnerable.
I think a lot of people have a struggle with being vulnerable, or just saying like, I'm not 100% there yet, but I'll get there.
And that not being okay doesn't have to be this huge thing. It can mean, I'm not okay today and I just need someone to talk to. I think sometimes when people hear that or they think they gotta, go to the moon with, it doesn't always mean a crisis situation. It just means, hey, I need an ear. I need someone to understand.
Yeah. And today's just not a great day.
Today's just not a great day.
And that's okay. We're all allowed not to have a great day.
That's right.
So what does a life aligned with support and purpose kind of look like now? And where do you hope it goes?
I hope that I continue to just that confidence, the boundaries. I have I always say I have a standard in my life, a bar, because I am so transparent about who I am, where I'm at. So leaning into those people that support me and that understand where I'm coming from, and filtering out the things that don't bring me joy, that don't, bring value to my life, and keeping it positive and not having to explain myself. That's the biggest thing. So
Yeah, as long as it's working for you and
it
you know
works
that
for me, right?
Yeah, and you know that it's bringing value and joy to your life,
and
then
that I'm headed in the right direction. And that's the best thing. I'm about the quality of my kids. Me and my husband have a great second opportunity. We're both happy for that, and so that's what my bubble is right now. And it's that's all I care about.
Yeah. So if someone listens to this episode and remembers one thing, what do you hope it is?
That, I don't want to say the cliche, it's okay to not be okay, but that can look many different. Everyone's journey is different, and to get help, there is help out there, and even help can be it's one day at a time. Like I said, I started my healing journey 10 years ago, and I've just made peace with the fact that every day might be a little harder than some others. I might have to, coach myself. To coach myself on the way here, that I might battle with different things, but as long as I can identify them and work on it every day, because there's something worth living for. Not everybody gets a second chance in life. I think you guys both know that.
Yeah.
And if you have a second chance, do the best that you can with it. Change lives, which you guys are doing too. So.
Oh, thanks. Well, thank you, Baby Jenna.
Baby J.
Thank you, Baby J, for coming on our podcast today. I really appreciate it. And I know it's not easy to talk about all the things.
Well, yeah,
all the things.
I hope it was all right. You guys
did a great job.
It was like catching up, comfortable talking with you guys.
Well,
so
I'm glad.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming. And would it be okay if we did a link to Reboot?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I would. They're great. They're in all 50 states just about right now, and in multiple different countries. Like I said, they started from just two people that had a vision in their living room in Fort Campbell, and now they are global and saving a lot of lives. So
wonderful. Well, if you go through the podcast to our links, we'll make sure that Reboot is linked there. So thank you, Baby J, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.